Hello everybody, it's the Gruppeteer, and I'm back again with another episode of Cartoons vs. Cancer, the show where we talk to your favorite cartoon creators to help raise money for my friend Madeline Carlson's post-cancer treatment. And today's guest is a very, very special guest. Not only is she the first person we've had who has a star on the Walk of Fame, but the Canadian Walk of Fame. It's true, it's pretty impressive. Miss Lynn Johnston is with us today. That was a tongue twister. The creator of the syndicated comic strip For Better or For Worse, and the TV specials of the same name. And we're very happy to have her today. Hello, Lynn.
Hi there.
And since Lynn, as you obviously can see, isn't in the studio today, her soul and body is inside of this little Farley thingy right here, if that's what you want to call it. So rest assured, you'll still be talking to Lynn, but it'll go right to little Farley here. And I guess the first thing I'd like to know, if we can diverge sort of on the comic strip, thing for a second. Are you aware, your comic strip being For Better or For Worse, of the Tyler Perry show, For Better or For Worse, the marriage counseling show?
Yes, I heard about that actually before the show went on the air. Mm-hmm. And I believe my syndicate contacted them and said, are you sure you want to duplicate the name? And I guess they had already decided that that was it. So, what do? It's all one world, and everybody uses that expression anyway. So,
yeah,
whatever.
Is there a reason you chose the expression for the name of your strip?
I don't know what to call it, and the time was running out. I had a creative contract for 6 months, and I had to come up with names other than my family's names. Yeah. So I chose everybody's second name and made up the last name. Ellie was for a friend who died of cancer, brain cancer, and in high school, which was pretty sad.
Yeah.
And he came up with the name For Better or For Worse, and we went with it, even though it was long and cumbersome, but it was more or less what the strip was about. It was bittersweet. It wasn't all roses. I wanted to be very realistic and emotional, and I didn't expect the characters to grow up, but they did. So, it turned out to be For Better or For Worse.
And I would like to expand upon that a little bit. Like you said, the characters do grow. And what she means by that, for instance, if you haven't read the strip, in the Peanuts, for example, Linus and Charlie Brown, they're in there for, the 50 years that they were in the newspapers, but they never grow up. They're still the same characters the entire time. Garfield never gets older. Odie never passes away. But in For Better or For Worse, the characters, they grow. They literally grow up, and you see the generations of the Johnsons. Was there ever when you sat down and came up with the idea, did you think of these characters over the course of time, or did you just sort of roll with it as it came along?
You just roll with it as it comes along. Mm-hmm. I never planned on having them grow up. I just thought that's the way comic strips were, that everything would stay the same. Yeah. But it was loosely based on my own family, and a lot of it on my childhood memories, of course, as you use whatever you have at your fingertips for material. And so as my own kids grew up, they became actually more interesting, and they were funny as little babies with all the goofy things babies do, but the older they got, the more interesting they became, and the more I was impressed by how I could work in their friends and their teachers. And in the end, we had about 90 different characters if you add them all up, including bus drivers and janitors and whoever else popped into the strip.
And was it, how did the families or the members of the family feel in their interpretations in the strip?
At first they were concerned, but as they brought their friends over to the house, and the friends realized it was just one more house with a toilet you needed to jiggle the handle, and a blender that didn't work, and and a mother that yelled at you occasionally. I mean, they knew that it was just another family, and it was my job. I guess the things that bothered the kids more than anything was my traveling, because I was away quite a bit, and I wanted to be away. I enjoyed the publicity, and I enjoyed the book tours, and I really enjoyed a lot of that. Maybe too much, but at the time we were living, and we've always lived in very small towns, and I'm from the city, and I just loved getting out to New York and Chicago and Los Angeles, and I loved it. And and I tried not to do it too much, but I probably, as a mom, did travel a little more than they would have liked me to.
Yeah. Is there a place you traveled that you remember more fondly than others?
Well, Santa Rosa, of course, in California, because we go there every Christmas for the big Christmas show. We take the kids, and Sparky and Jeannie Schulz had an arena there, and still there, and still going strong. You probably got that sweater from the arena or from thereabouts, because it was quite a wonderful opportunity to see live performance and also spend the time with Sparky and Jeannie.
And you've been asked this a whole bunch of times, but even, you know, as the cartoon nerd I am, I have to know. And for those at home, when she refers to Sparky, she's talking about Charles Schulz, you know, the creator of Peanuts. Would you mind telling us a little bit about what it was like? I mean, was there any sort of being starstruck when you were friends with him?
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely. Oh, gosh, yes. I mean, I was reading Peanuts when I was a little kid, and I guess Sparky was about 25 years older than I am. And when I first, he called me actually when the strip started to run, and he said, "Hi, I just thought I'd like to. This is Charles Schulz calling. Thought I'd like to tell you I like your work." And I said, "Who?" I mean, I thought it was a joke. And he said rather apologetically, "I do Peanuts." And I had to sit down. I did. And after that, we met at the Reuben Awards in Washington, and I was up for an award, and he whispered in my ear, "I voted for you." Well, he and Kathy Geisbert were great friends. In fact, it was Kathy who introduced me to him, because I didn't know from all of these cartoonists which one was him. And we were very, very good friends for a long time. I wrote a couple of speeches for him. I visited his house very often. One night, all the alarms went off in the house, and we were all gathered in our pajamas in the kitchen. So I can say I've seen him in his pajamas. So we borrowed his car. I mean, how often do you get a chance to meet your heroes, right? I mean, if you're a hockey fan, you're not going to meet Wayne Gretzky on the street. But I got to meet so many heroes, wonderful people from Mad Magazine, New Yorker, Pixar and Disney, and dreams come true really when it comes to meeting all these wonderful people and finding them to be gracious and kind and funny and warm and generous and supportive. Anytime anybody was ill, we all wanted to help them. In fact, one time I remember Ziggy was very sick. Tom Wilson, who did the little character Ziggy, and Jim Davis and Jim Unger and I were together when Ziggy was sick, and we tried to write and draw for Ziggy, and we couldn't. We could write, but we could not draw Ziggy. And as simple a character as he was, it's so much of a signature. Just like somebody can't copy your signature easily without working at it, we just could not draw Ziggy. But yet we did some writing. Not that they used any of it, but they appreciated the thought.
And with, like you said, and you are the first person we've had on the show who's made a syndicated cartoon. So I guess excuse this possible ignorance, but what is it like to have to draw the same, like you said, few characters every single day?
Characters was a joy. Coming up with the ideas, the jokes. I mean, every day had to have significance, because your reader has less than 30 seconds before they're done. Imagine how long it takes you to read. If you're a good reader, and we all really can read quite quickly, it's not much time that you have with your audience. So you have to get your audience's attention somehow, whether it's the drawing or the writing. And I found that the writing was the most difficult, because without the writing, you don't have the art. The art for me was easy, because you're acting, and it was a pleasure to act through the characters for those 4 panels. And then when I inked it, it was like bringing the characters to life. And whenever I do a workshop, I talk to the students in terms of ghosting the characters, like you gently draw them in pencil. And I know you can do all of this on Wacom now, that you can gently draw something in pencil, and then you ink it in with a stronger hand and a black line, and you bring it. I always felt that I was bringing it to life, because I used a speedball nib, which has that split tip to it. And so when you press the ink into the paper, you have a sense of actually touching the character and moving the hair as if it was something that you were carving, actually. And so I really loved the drawing. It was the writing that drove me crazy, because yeah, that was the thing that would keep you up till 4 in the morning or keep you working in Christmas Day. It was really that's the meat and potatoes of daily comic strip art.
And in the comments, by the way, if you would like to ask Lynn a question, write it in the comments. We'll probably answer it. But in the comments, as for right now, Big Nasty 98 would like to know, is there any characters that derived from Charles Schulz?
No, I don't think so. Big Nasty? Heck, there's a name for you. I hope he lives up to his name.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Big Nasty, I guess not. But, and you know, obviously this is an interview with Lynn Johnston, but there is one more Charles Schulz thing that I'd like to ask, and it is about you, actually, is that supposedly, because I was reading the Charles Schulz biography, I think last year, but, you know, I digress. Supposedly, when you had the idea to kill off Farley, you know, in the comic, Sparky was so mad that he said if you did, he'd hit Snoopy with a truck.
Right, he did say that. Yep.
Yeah, really?
Well, I used to bounce ideas off him, and we talked about once every 2 weeks on the phone, and I would see him maybe 3 times a year, and we were very, very good friends, and he never took anybody else's ideas, and I didn't either, unless it was without their knowledge, you know, family and friends, that kind of thing. Yeah. But I bounced the idea off him of killing the dog, and because I had to. I mean, the dog was 13 years old, and Old English sheepdogs don't live that long. And he was literally furious. And he said, if you kill off Farley, I'm going to have Snoopy hit by a truck, and nobody's going to watch your stupid strip. They're all going to care about Snoopy in the hospital. And he was serious. Wow, and after Farley died, he called me up, and he was serious again. It was really curious how he could be so I don't know, affected by something in such a real way, because he said, that stupid little girl should never have gone down to the river. Where were her parents? She should never have gone down there. And that dog should never have gone into the water after her, that stupid little girl. And he was so angry. Wow. And I was surprised, because at first I thought he was kidding, but he wasn't. He was serious.
So I guess for all those IMDb fanatics out there who are writing quotes on the Charles Schulz page, I don't know if you want to include that one or not. We'll see about that.
He was quite a character. He was a wonderful person, and I am so glad I had the chance to get to know him. Sparky and a number of other wonderful, wonderful people. I got the job at the right time in the right era.
And like you said, right time, right era, which sort of transitions into the comments, in which Jonathan B is asking, how do you feel about, you know, movies like, you know, the new Peanuts movie or maybe the Garfield movie being adapted from comic strips and seeing, you know, works that your friends made being put on the big screen?
I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. I think the Peanuts movie was a real challenge, and it came off beautifully. I was so impressed by how they managed to make that light fly off the face line. And one of the things he never had the kids do is put their arms up when they were facing you, because their heads were too big, right? The arm from the side literally went through the side of the head, as if the head was an invisible ball. Because imagine the tiny little body and the little tiny arms. If Charlie Brown reached up into a tree for the kite string, he'd have to do it from the side view, right? Yeah. And he hated drawing feet. He hated drawing a lot of things, and that's why he would put the characters behind a wall. And so it was beautifully done. And knowing Jim Davis really quite well, I think the Garfield movies were wonderfully done. And he was very much involved with the voices and the acting, and I think that's his strong point, is theater. He really, he's turned over a lot of the drawing to other artists, and he does a lot of the writing, and I think that's where he really comes to life himself in the movies. I mean, if you know Jim Davis, Garfield is Jim, right down to the big eyeballs. He's the guy. Well, you know what? We all are all of our characters. Yeah. You know, because that's you. That's your signature. It's your voice. It's your thoughts. Sometimes a muse will come down from the heavens and give you a great idea, and you sort of look up and say, where were you yesterday, you lump? But, you know, that really is the basic us that you see. in the comics.
And you know, like you say, the transition into film, you actually, well, not, you know, feature films, for better or for worse, was adapted into a few TV specials and eventually a short-lived TV series. I actually couldn't find too much information on it.
Good, yeah, good, because I don't want them to be seen. I'm not proud of them.
Oh, really? Would you mind telling us about that?
Sometimes when things are done, too many things are done too fast.
Yeah.
They're not done well. And the joke was behind the scenes that the people who were in production and were marketing, they didn't want it good, they wanted it now. And when somebody's attitude is, we don't want it good, we want it now, everything fails.
Yeah.
You'll send things overseas and it will come back wrong, but they have to insert it into the show anyways because they have no time to fix it. And so many things went wrong and so many things were done cheaply. And actually, two of the companies that I worked with went out of business, precisely because of all of this craziness that, you know, if you're going to do something, please do it well. And often they will want 26 shows so they can market it to the States. Well, I wasn't going to let them do 26 shows of mine because I didn't want them marketed in the States because they were too bad. They were horrible. Honestly, I worked with wonderful writers, the best on the planet, and it was a joy to work with the writers. It was a joy to work with the animators and the artists and the background people and the camera people. It was an absolute joy to work with the team, but the marketing people, the people that owned the company, all they cared about was fast and dirty, and they didn't care if it was good. So those are terrible shows.
Really?
The first one I did was a good little show because I wrote it and we took the time to do it quite well. But even so, even with all of that personal touch, there were all kinds of mistakes.
Yeah.
There was mistakes in the recording, and in one scene there's a little electric train going around a track and they forgot the wheels on the engine. You know, no wheels. I mean, there are always mistakes in these shows. But if you take the time to work on it, I mean, I remember one of the directors said to me, Lynn, there's no such thing as perfect. And I said, I know, but if you aim for perfect, you're going to get really good. And that's what you want, is really good. So the first show, which was called The Best is Present, was a really good little show.
Yeah. We
did 6 more with another company that went bankrupt because of poor management, and they were okay, but we still ran into the trouble of having too much work and too little time. And then there was another shot at it. We did 16 shows and they were horrible. Oh. And those are the ones you can't find, thank God.
Yeah.
Because they're an embarrassment, because people see a show like that and they think Lynn wrote and drew the whole thing. And so if it's bad, she really dropped the ball. I didn't drop the ball. None of us dropped the ball. It's just the way it works out if you are doing fast and dirty. And a lot of animation is fast and dirty. And that's, you know, that's why the Flintstones went to little, you know, like 3 drawing walk cycles, you know, and things like that. It was to economize, but there are ways of economizing without making a bad show. You know, as long as the writing is good, the animation can be fairly sparse, but you know, don't make your audience watch something that is pure dreck because you think you can make money out of it. I just, you know, don't get me started.
Yeah, well, as much as you'd probably like to drop the subject, I do have one more question, and it is that you yourself appeared at the beginning of a lot of the episodes. Actually, you sort of gave a little segue into the episodes. You know, you were just sitting at your desk.
Okay, that wasn't my idea, and it was crap. Really? It wasn't my idea. It was the producer's idea. Yeah. And the director was brought in from Vancouver, I think, and the producer, or I can't even remember who was who, but the people that actually physically did the show had the idea that they wanted to start each one of the episodes with me doing something related to the content of the show. Yeah. So if it was about housework, I'd be ironing and I'd have my hair in curlers and I would talk into the camera. Or if it was about cooking. I'd be in the kitchen and you know, with an electric beater on, and the food would be flying. And they were willing to do all of that. And I thought that would be great. But they bring in at great expense this guy from Vancouver who wants me sitting at a drafting table and drawing and looking up beatifically at my audience and saying some crappy thing, which I just, but you know, I'm a good sport.
Yeah.
And if that's what they wanted, that's what I flippin' well did. But it was crap. Pardon me, but that's why you don't see the shows. I mean, you know, give me the satisfaction and the honor of doing what I know will work, right? And those of us who know what will work, let us do it. Let us do the show. If you're gonna stick me with a show at great expense with my name on it, let me do it right. Or let's not do it at all, so we don't do it at all anymore. I'm not going to agree to anything.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. You know, I don't really know what to say to follow that up. But luckily, we do have someone in the comments, and it's Big Nasty. He's back again. Big Nasty.
Oh, good.
Big Nasty. He'd like to redeem himself, I guess. He'd like to know if there are any current animations or animated projects that you like.
That I like? Whoa, well, geez, I like everything. Who's not, you know, what's not to like about CGI and all the incredible stuff that's going out there? I mean, you know, it started, I think, with, the one Pixar, the
Toy Story?
Toys, Toy Story. Whoa, that was beautifully written, and the sequel was beautifully done. I mean, animation today is incredibly good. Yeah. And they are paying attention to good writing and good stories to some extent. I mean, some you can really pick apart and say they don't work, partly because I think it's often too fast.
Yeah.
Or like Finding Nemo was good, but the sequel to that,
Finding
I think story got lost because they were too busy trying to create more and more and more action and action and action, and eventually you just get so confused that the story is too impossible.
Yeah.
And all it is entertainment. It's like watching fireworks, and when it's over, you just smell the gunpowder in the air and you forget what the heck you saw, right? So so I think as long as they pay attention to the story, really, I mean, it goes right back to that. The writing has to be good.
Yeah.
You know, because you're guaranteed now the acting and the drawing, the acting is superb. I mean, I think they can actually make the facial expressions of the real person who's doing the voices now. I mean, it's magic what they're doing, but yeah, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good, but what's not to like?
Yeah, unless I guess it's based on the comic strip, but I don't want to get into that again.
You know, every cartoonist, I mean, we're all so arrogant. I mean, we love what we do. We enjoy what we do, and we would love to see our work on T-shirts and undershorts and on the big screen in 3D. I mean, of course, if it was written and if it was really drawn, it would have to.
In the comments, Jonathan B would like to know, would you ever go back to making for better or for worse? Or if no, are there any changes you would have made to the original strip's run?
If I went back to the strip now, it would have to be from my point of view as an old lady, because I'm 69, for Christ's sakes. How did that happen?
Bless you.
But I'd have to, and I'd have to bump off the husband.
Yeah,
and I would get a tremendous amount of fun out of that. I know how to do it. That would be several weeks of wonderful craftsmanship and good gags. But no, I'm not gonna start again. It's a lot of work, and there's a reason why people retire, and the biggest reason is that you just don't have what it takes anymore. Maybe some people do. I mean, I think Tony Bennett is still singing beautifully, and he's older than I am. But I cannot write and draw a comic strip anymore. I couldn't do it because the deadlines are horrific. I mean, people think that it's easy. Oh, you just do a drawing a day and send it out. But it's not like that. It'll take you a week to do the writing. and then another week to do the drawing, and maybe another week to do the inking. And, you know, you have to be 8 weeks ahead of the deadline in many cases. It's not that much now. I think it was 6 and 8 for dailies and Sundays when I was there working on it. But now it's probably just 24 hours. But, you know, you can't get that close to your deadline either, because panic makes you do crappy work. If no matter what you do, you have to send it in. And I remember talking to Sparky about this, and he says, some days you're not going to do your best work, but you have to try for your best every single day. And if you try your best every single day for the writing and drawing, that's all you can do. You can't do any better than your best. So that's what you do. And that puts a lot of pressure on you. So no, I couldn't do it again. I do enjoy looking at other people's work, and I know how much hard work it is. Yeah.
You'll never guess. Big Nasty's back. He's got another question.
Hey, BN.
In short, how would you bump off the husband if you could?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. Yes, I do know. John goes into the Lucky Clucker cheap chicken joint pretty well every day for lunch, and Ellie keeps trying to feed him wholesome food, but he sneaks in there, and she can tell by the smell on the collar where he's been, you know. And it's the Lucky Clucker. He goes into the Lucky Clucker just about every day for lunch, and he eats the fried Kentucky good stuff. So anyways, hanging over the doorway of the Lucky Clucker is an enormous metal chicken. It's been there for years and years. It's a big sucker, and it's getting loose and rusty, and John gets in there, and he's in the middle of his Lucky Clucker lunch, and he realizes he left his wallet in the car. Well, he runs out the door, and as he exits, down comes the chicken. And there's just the Gucci's at one end and the glasses at the other, and the old man is toast, right? That's the way he's gonna go. That would give me such pleasure, I gotta tell you. I smile every time I think about it. So
you would kill off the father from For Better or For Worse with a giant chicken.
I absolutely would. Yeah. And with as much relish as a starving person would see that first meal, that would just thrill me to bits. Yeah.
So I'm assuming you've given this serious thought before, right?
Oh, sure. But cartooning is serious. So as much as a cartoonist gives serious thought to something, yes, I've delighted in the imagery and wished I could draw it. And you know, I know how the front of the store looks. You know, I mean, and the steam on the restaurant windows. I mean, I've been there in my mind. So yeah.
Well, I really don't know how to follow that up, but I would like to know, like I said in the beginning, that you are not only the first person on my show to have a star on the Walk of Fame, but even better, it's the Canadian Walk of Fame. Now, I can only imagine that, you know, you're brought in. That you're brought in, you know, on a moose, and they ascend you down a staircase as Canadian guardsmen, you know, play those little spiral trumpet horns, and you walk in and you put your hands in the cement and all that fun stuff. But what is the process of getting a Canadian star on the Walk of Fame?
They contact you at home, tell you that they've voted you in. You go get your picture taken. You show up in Toronto. You drink a lot of food, drink a lot of booze, eat a lot of food, hang out with some really cool people. I was on the stage with Shania Twain and Andrea Martin and Mike Myers, all Canadian cool people. And it was really quite exciting. It was quite flattering and quite wonderful. And they take your picture as you kneel down on the ground, looking at the Star of Fame, which they then moved to another place downtown Toronto where you can be walked on by millions.
And, you know, as you are the first person to have this sort of achievement on my show, if you're ever in Toronto, you know, I don't know how often you're there, do you ever, like, go and see your star?
Well, I don't make a special trip, but if I'm on the road with a friend,
Yeah.
And the friend says, "Where is it?" Well, yeah, we go looking for it. And, you know, it's really exciting to be there with a lot of other wonderful people. I mean, other wonderful people. Well, yeah, by golly, let's go there. I received the star with Tuller Cranston, who was a very well-known ice skating champion and a wonderful person, a marvelous artist. Yeah. And just to be there with all these other people who have, you know, been honored by Canadians. Yeah, it's not a small thrill.
Yeah, no, I do.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, I find it really interesting, and a little bit like you were saying before, you're also the first, and please correct me if I'm right, or if I'm incorrect about this, but I think this is correct. You're the first woman to win a Rubin. Hey everybody, it's the Gruppeteer. We just had a little slip up. Oh well, it happens, we're professional. Anyway, we were just talking to Lynn Johnston, creator of For Better or For Worse, the comic strip, about being the first woman to win a Rubin Award. And I guess that is, you know, what I want to ask. Is it something that you think of as a special title, or did you even really realize at the time that you were the first woman?
I was really honored when I was nominated, and I did not expect to win. And I wasn't ready to win. I didn't feel that I had earned my stripes. Yeah. It was too soon in my career. I was blown away when I was nominated, and I fully expected Jim Davis to win that year. And he did not, which surprised me because I voted for Jim.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was wonderful, and I cherish the award. It's a huge piece of metal with a big block of wood on one end of it. It made quite a weapon.
Do you like? Let me think how to phrase this. Do you, with the recent, you know, surge in, and I guess I'm thinking of animation at this time, but in cartoons in general, women have been a lot more accepted. You know, call it Rebecca Sugar, Darren Nefsey, all these amazing people out there making cartoons and animation and art. Do you feel that women are a lot more accepted in the medium now, or do you think that they were always sort of welcome?
Well, they were always there, but never named.
Yeah.
If you watch the credits on so many animated movies, you see lots of women, and there are women in greeting cards and writing greeting cards, drawing them, and illustrating children's books, and on and on and on. But so many people in comic books, and again in animation, and for years and years, people just didn't. They just didn't recognize the women who were in the business. And I guess it was harder to get into, certainly when women's roles were much more kept to the home. Yeah. I mean, being a housewife, which is an ugly word because you're married to, you know, you're the wife of a person, not a building, but ultimately that building, you know, was yours. You had to, my mother, for example, had to separate all of the jobs into the weeks of the day. You know, Monday was washing, and Tuesday was ironing, and Wednesday was vacuuming, and Thursday was change the sheets and that kind of thing. And it's a horrible full-time job along with kids. And nowadays, I think we're allowed to go to work and work from our homes and have daycare without people frowning at us. And yeah, I think women are allowed to work now. And years ago, they really weren't. They weren't. Yeah. You weren't considered doing a good job if you were working outside the home. Either that, or you were forced to because of an economic problem, and it was never heralded as an achievement. So. Yeah, I think now we can be there, and we are, and so many people are exceptionally good. It's a joy to see that.
Yeah, and in the comments, Hannah Foreman would like to know that, as you were saying about, you know, killing off the husband, do you have a certain favorite character in the strip?
Let's see, probably Farley the dog.
Yeah.
If I could write something that was really good for the dog, he was the most animatable, fluid character because he was completely fictitious, and he was a rubber character. You could stretch and squeeze and play with him, and, you know, really have him do incredible non-dog-like things. Not that he was Snoopy and magic and thought and walked on his hind feet, but he was just squishable. lovable, easy to draw, funny, fun piece of fluff. I liked him a lot, and he didn't. He wasn't someone who had to be real in an emotional sense, and I didn't have to worry about one of my children being offended because I had done a storyline that maybe showed them a little too close to the bone, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was probably Farley the dog. He was the easiest character and the most fun to draw, and the hardest was Ellie because she was me in many ways, and she had an inflatable nose, as my son pointed out one time, because whenever she was angry, her nose was large, and whenever she was demure and sympathetic, her nose was smaller. So yeah, she was hard to draw.
Demure. What a nice word, demure.
Yeah.
So, wait, no, yeah, I totally remember what I was just gonna say. So, like you said, your family sometimes isn't too keen on their interpretations, which, that happens here and there. But is there a certain comic, storyline, or maybe a certain strip that you did that you remember them reacting to more than another one?
Oh, gee. No.
Really? Yeah.
Well, the whole thing belonged to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We all lived that strip for almost 35 years, and the storyline that affected us all the most was the story about Lawrence coming out, the gay character, because we were flooded with mail and phone calls from early morning till late at night every single day for as long as the story ran. But my son had moved out and was working at the time, and my daughter was almost an adult, but yet that affected the family more than anything.
And that is a very very strong storyline. For those who don't know, there's a character, Michael, being Ellie's son, has a friend named Lawrence, and he is revealed, or he comes out to his mother as being gay. And actually, at the time, that was a little early into the strip's run, if I remember correctly, a little like in sort of the halfway point. But I digress. Was it difficult, or were you scared to write a story like that?
No, I wrote the story for my friend Michael Badboncourt, who was a comedy writer for the CBC, which is Canada's national broadcast station. And he was murdered by a guy that he befriended. He'd given the guy, it was a homeless young man, and he'd given him some money to go to a shelter. Mm-hmm. And he gave him his card. And, said, if you have any problems, give me a call. Well, that card had his address on it. And the kid took the $40, bought a knife, went to Michael's apartment and slit his throat and took his stereo and his bicycle. So for his kindness, Michael died. And the attitude at the time seemed to be, well, there's one more predator off the streets. And the sympathy went to the young man who was the murderer. And Michael's partner was so distraught. He died not long after that, and because of stress and heartbreak. And I did the story for Michael, and also my brother-in-law was gay, and still is, and is very articulate, and was very happy to help me write quite a bit of it in his words. I would tell him what I wanted to say, and he would tell me what he would like the character to say as a gay man. And that to me was very helpful because it gave an essence of reality to it. And even though I thought I knew, you never know. You never know. Yeah. Just like I did a story where Elizabeth goes to a northern Native community and is working as a teacher there. Well, I worked with several people, First Nations people, to say, is this right? Would this work? Yeah. And they changed the vocabulary of the characters and designed a little town for me, and it was their voice because it was their story. So I like to do the research. I think that if you're going to do a realism-based storyline, it has to be real in every way. Mm-hmm. Here's one thing. I remember a comic panel done by a man or a woman, I don't know, but it was a single panel cartoon, and it was about somebody chopping down a tree, and the chainsaw was drawn so badly that I don't remember what the joke was, and I don't remember what the cartoonist's name was, but all I can remember was how horribly drawn the chainsaw was. And I thought, you idiot, you know, pick up a catalog and find a flippin' chainsaw and draw the damn thing, you know, otherwise you're insulting everybody who's looking at this thing. And I firmly believe that if you're going to draw a truck, go buy yourself a toy truck and see what the damn thing looks like from all directions. That was one of the smartest things I ever did, was start to go buy really good quality die cast vehicles, because you can draw them so much better if you have the thing in your hand, turn it and open the doors, and you know, you can't work from a photograph that's static. And I bought farm animals and cowboy hats and rocking chairs and anything that I could find in toys and 3D little items, even things that were like fridge magnets, little shopping carts. I bought all these toys, and they were the best darn resource material I could ever have. That and my old Polaroid camera. I took 1 million photographs with these old Polaroid cameras so that I would get hand positions correctly. Now, if you think about two people holding hands, if you're walking behind a couple and they're holding hands, what do those hands look like? That's really hard to draw. So I took lots of photographs. And the other thing I have to confess is that I had Archie comics, because I think those are some of the best drawn characters ever. They're lifelike, they're beautifully designed, the anatomically beautiful, you know, the way the body language is, the way they slouch and sit and talk and lean, beautiful clothing, the folds in the clothing, it's very modern clothing now. I think Archie's one of the best drawn comics out there for somebody who's doing a reality-based storyline. And things like, how do the feet look when somebody's walking towards you? I mean, feet are terribly hard to draw. So I used Archie comics as a resource, not that I would copy, but just to say, so that's what two hands holding looks like, you know? I mean, I unabashedly used Archie to help me draw.
That's really interesting. And actually, you know, obviously you're, there it goes. Obviously, your comic was in the newspaper, and everybody knows that. But a newspaper, you know, when I have people on the show, they make movies, they make TV shows, and people have TVs, people watch TVs. Do they watch that specific channel? You know, it's sort of here and there. But a newspaper is such a universal thing, and especially the, you know, the comic pages on that there's just so many possibilities. Your work reaches so many people. And actually, something I'd like to know, and also Hannah Foreman in the comments would like to know, have you ever, like many do, cut out a comic strip of your own and hung it on your fridge?
No, because I had the originals. and to be honest, I was pretty sick of my own stuff. There was one strip that I really liked that really touched my heart, and I had it framed and put in my studio. And it was Elizabeth looking up at the snow, and the snow is coming down, and she said, somebody made this happen just for me. She's dancing in the snow. And I don't know, for some reason that one kind of touched me. But for the most part, I just finished them and stuck them away, and finished them and stuck them away. And I gave away a lot of them, and I sold a few, and most of my work is now in the Canadian archives. But you know, after a while, it's a job, and all you want to do is the best you can do every day, and that's it.
And a lot of people you know, did read them, and it did get reran, if that's the correct tense to use that word. Have you picked up a newspaper since then, opened it, seen a comic, and been like, hey, I remember where I was when I wrote that, or, you know, I remember what mindset I was in when I wrote that?
Oh, sure. Well, we work on the strips even now. We have to put seatbelts in there and erase any cigarettes in the background. And now and then, I mean, recently we took out the word aspirin and had to put in ibuprofen or something like that, you know, because there's politically correct stuff going on. And certainly not going to put cell phones or flat screen computers in there. But we do make little edits from time to time. And I write on our website. I write a little story about each strip that has a story. If it was based on a childhood memory, or if it was something that really happened, like Uncle Phil and John Patterson go on a canoe trip, and and they end up marooned on an island. Well, something like that really did happen to my husband, and he just about lost his life along with 3 other men. But it was an aircraft accident, not a canoe accident. And but that storyline was very realistic. So that's something I have written about on the website so that people know why I did some of those drawings and where the ideas came from.
And by the way, if you would like to see that website, it is www.forbetterorforworse.com.
I think it's FBORFW.com.
Oh, of course.
But you'll get there. If you write the whole thing, it'll get you there. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, one way or another. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Jonathan B. would like to know, are there any ideas for comic strips or comic strip storylines that never reached the light of day?
Oh, sure. Lots.
Mm-hmm. Is there any memorable ones you remember, maybe?
It was more individual strips that never made the light of day. Sunday comics, daily comics, things that I put aside because I didn't think they were good enough. Mm-hmm. And years later, I found the pencil roughs and thought, yeah, well, maybe they were okay after all. But I was really hard on myself. I really, I didn't send anything out unless it was the best I could possibly do. So if I could do something better, I did, and I would put something aside and redraw it and rewrite it and that type of thing. Yeah. There's just, and one of the problems is that you're on a deadline. So whatever you do has to get out there. You really can't waste any time. So most of the ideas, whether I like them or not, had to go out. I just had to try and make it the best I could possibly make it at the time.
Well, we sort of already answered that one. So, like I say, or like I've said, the show's about animation. For the most part, everybody I've had on my show works with a team. They make, a show or a movie, and they work on a team. They have all these people around them all the time. But with comic strips, I imagine you sit down, probably at your desk, and you write up the comic. Would you mind talking about if there is any possible isolation that comes with the job?
Well, there really is, especially with the writing, but you need that and you want that. And when you're into it, you have a routine where you have your writing days and your drawing days. Yeah. And because I traveled quite a bit, and because I did everything very clearly in pencil, I was able to hire a couple of very good artists who helped me with the inking. And I never let anybody else draw the characters, but I would let other people draw the backgrounds and do the lettering, because after a while it was just too much and my eyes started to go. I have a growth in my right eye, which makes it look like I'm looking through a fishbowl on one side. So my eyes started to go. And I have a wonderful colorist. As soon as electronic coloring was possible from home, I started to work with a colorist, and he's still working with me, and he's just absolutely wonderful. I've had a couple of colorists, and so we do have a team, and I have a wonderful website designer, Stephanie Van Dalweerd, who has been doing my website, and she's a charm. And
she's also
my daughter. My daughter Kate
episodes.
Manages the business, and so we still have quite a team here.
And I'm sorry to hear about your eye, by the way, but I hope it doesn't make this sweater look any uglier.
Come on, ugly sweaters are in. You're supposed to get prizes for ugly sweaters now.
Yeah, where's my prize? So before we sign off, because we almost are out of time, I'd like to, maybe on a little bit of a more serious note, you do come from a background, a family that I don't think, you really want to get too much into, but I would like to know at what point art came to you as sort of a way to escape.
Oh, golly, I think the age of 3. Mm-hmm. I have drawings from the age of 3, and my aunts and uncles tell me that I was drawing, really, stuff that they could recognize when I was 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty early. I've been watching my own grandchildren, and although they both love to draw in color, I don't think they have the bug. I think they have the music bug, though. So my brother got the music lessons, I got the art lessons, and the magic's going to be out there somewhere.
And I would also like to know, in this age of ever-evolving web comics and digital and stuff, do you think there is not only hope for the newspaper industry, I guess, but hope for original hand-drawn comics?
I I don't know where the newspaper's going. Like everybody else, you kind of wonder. I think, like magazines, there will be a certain number out there because for many reasons, people still want the newspapers.
Yeah.
But I think our future is in graphic novels, and there's wonderful, wonderful work happening now. And with the beauty of a graphic novel is that it's already a storyboard for a movie or an animated show, and it's got all of the magic that a comic strip had, but even more potential, because you don't have to have a gag a day or some sort of a hook every day. You can just draw the reader in through page after page.
Yeah.
And I've seen a couple of people now that I am just so enamored of and so proud of that I honestly think that's where we're going. Yeah.
And if there is anybody out there possibly wearing a mediocrely nice looking sweater, and they're wondering how they can get into the industry of making comics, either it be online or, you know, in the newspaper, what advice would you give them?
Do lots of stuff for free. Do lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff for free. And do lots of stuff. I mean, there are people who'll do 10 cartoons and they want to sell those right now. Well, you got to do 1,000 cartoons, and maybe out of the 1,000, 10 will be good enough. Honestly, you just have to do a lot of work. It's work. It's hard work. And I don't know where to send it now. I think your first bet is do the graphic novels. What scares me is the crazy people online who will snap back at you with horrible comments. Mm-hmm. These people, I call them the fungus people. I think they live in basements and they're covered with mushrooms and they have no life. And their life is to say horrible things to creative people who deserve better. I mean, you know, if that's your life, well, just, you know, there you are. We can't stop them. But I cry inside for the broken hearts of the people who put something out there and get trash back, because the encouragement has to come from somewhere. And I got so much encouragement because I did stuff for free, which is what you're doing online. You're doing stuff for free. But the people that I did stuff for free for, my doctors, my, you know, friends, people that I knew in, you know, at the university that I worked for, I mean, the encouragement that I got back from them was that was the pay that I got. It was not money, but it was incentive and positive, right? Mm-hmm. But if you put something online, which is where you're going to find an audience now, and you get back the crap you get from the fungus people, how do you fight that? I don't know. I'm not 16 anymore, so I don't know how the new generation of cartoonists is going to deal with that. It would be nice if you could just block them all and not be curious and check out and see what they're saying. But the fungus people can rot in their basements because they're going to kill some of the best stuff that ever happened, and that should not be.
Well,
maybe that's their goal. Oh, in fact, I was signing books at a shop in the States, and a girl came up to me and she told me who she was, and she was a fungus person. She was somebody who had been writing horrible things to the website and to me, and Stephanie read it, but I didn't. And she kept saying, oh, here's another message from SOB123. I don't know what her handle was, whatever you call it. And there she was standing in front of me, and she wanted a book signed. And she said to me, hi, I'm SOB123. And I said, go away. And she was furious with me. She said, don't you realize how important we are, that we're helping you, that, you know, this is important feedback that you get? And I said to her, I don't care what kind of feedback it is. It's negative and horrible and mean, and go away. I'm not going to sign your book. And maybe I was being discourteous, but it came in, so it went out.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. Lynn Johnston tells you, don't be a fungus person. And you can help yourself cleanse yourself of such fungal matters by donating to Cartoons vs. Cancer. Check the description below and donate. That's why the show exists. Ladies and gentlemen, Lynn Johnston is the Canadian Walk of Famer, creator of the
not TV show, but rather comic strip, for better or for worse. If you want to hit up Lynn more often, she updates www.fbofw.com all the time. There, I got it right. Lynn, is there anything you'd like to say before we sign off?
Just thanks so much. This has been fun, and you're a lot of fun to talk to, and good luck with your own comic art career. I hope it goes. Keep in touch. Tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks.
So this is going to be the last episode of Cartoons vs. Cancer of 2016. 2017 will promise all kinds of great things. We'll have all kinds of great people, like Bill Burnett, creator of Chalk Zone, and that's the only person I have on the schedule right now, but don't worry about it. So all of you have an incredible Christmas, or Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, and make sure that you stay tuned. Make sure that you're safe, happy, healthy, and spending this time with your family and loved ones. We will see you guys later, and I'm signing off till next year. Goodbye.